Good,
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So I'm going to talk about what's in the sky this coming month. This is actually a great month to do some observing because we have the evenings start to come a little bit earlier, and there's a lot in the sky. We still have some of the remnants from September, October, and the summer months, and we're heading into some good stuff in November and the winter months. So a great resource for what's in the sky each month. I like to use the sky maps. I don't know if anybody else uses them, but if you go to skymaps.com, you could download a planetarium view for the given month. Each month it gives you a new planetarium view, and each month it gives you on the left-hand side, by the days of the month, what's kind of coming up in the sky that month. And so it's a really great resource, and I love to use it. And I'll mainly focus on objects that are east of the meridian at twilight, means stuff that's coming up and rising. As you know, here on Long Island, looking west, we kind of are looking into a lot of the New York City sky glows. So east is a lot better than west, where we but there's, like I just mentioned, there's still a lot of good objects looking west in November. As you could see here on this map, I don't know if you could tell, if you could see my cursor, but the summer triangle is still up in the sky, and even M13 Hercules around astro twilight is at a 38-degree altitude, although it's facing very west. But if you're in, I guess, dark enough skies, you'll be able to see it. And then some additional stuff on the sky map, which is, again, published every month at skymaps.com. It gives you, if I can move this thing here, stuff, naked eye objects, binocular objects, and telescope objects. So it's a really great resource. Just to give you an idea of the time frames for when you could start visually observing or doing imaging. So on November 1st, astro twilight ends at 7:22 p.m. And then by November 30th, I remember we're going to change back the clocks, I think next week, or is it this weekend or next week? Okay, so this coming up weekend, we change the clocks back. So by November 30th, astro twilight's as early as about 6 o'clock p.m. And the new moon in November is on the 13th. Anyway, so I one of my favorite tools is Astro Planner, and I did a talk about it a few years back, but I love the program. And so one of the things it gives you is, so if you start by, if you see the box on the top right, you have the date, and then you have where the moon is and what the moon is doing on that particular date. So you see here on November 2nd, the moon rises at 9:23 p.m. and it's a 73% moon. And you could see here on the furthest left that astro twilight starts at 7:21. So I would say on November 2nd is like your first effective day that if you wanted to go out to start visual observing, you could do that, because you have from 7 o'clock, 7:20 to about 9:20 to do where you have dark skies before the moon comes up. And then as you go down, the next date, November 3rd, you've got about 3 hours, 4 hours. So basically, I would say November for visual observing would start around November 2nd. And I would say that it runs until about November 18th, because you see here, November 16th, astro twilight's at 6. You have a moon that's setting around 7. It's only a 14% moon, so you could probably start observing around 6. by 2 days later on the 18th, you have a moon that doesn't set until 9:30, so that's getting a little bit late in the evening to, if you wanted to do visual observing. You can always do visual observing after that, but as far as like comfortable evening observing, you're probably looking at the first half of November as your ideal time to get out there and observe. This month we have a couple of meteor showers, and for meteor showers, the best time to observe a meteor shower is after midnight, after midnight or early dawn, because where the Earth is rotating, meteor showers are caused by the debris fields left by comets, and as the Earth rotates around the sun, you're going face into the debris field in early dawn as opposed to early evening. So the best time to see meteor showers is in the early dawn. And so with that said, we have the southern Taurid meteor shower, which peaks around November 6th or 7th, but the moon rises at 12:30 a.m., so it's not an ideal date for observing a meteor shower. Then you have the northern Taurid meteor shower, which peaks around November 11th into the 12th. So early morning, November 12th is the peak. It'll be close to new moon at that point in time, so it'll be ideal for observing the northern Taurid. And so I did this, prepare for this presentation. I didn't realize that there was a Taurid meteor shower, and I didn't realize there was a southern and a northern one. And Taurus, and the location that it's coming from, what's the word for that again? Radiant, thank you, is in the constellation Taurus, which is where Aldebaran and the Hyades star cluster is, just for a sense of reference. And we also have the Leonid meteor showers, November 18th into the 19th. And again, there the moon sets at 9:30, around 9:25 p.m. So again, that would be a good day. You'll have no moon for observing the Leonids in the morning of the 19th, so that's be a good day. And actually, I didn't mention this as an observing report, but I was up the other day around 5 a.m. and you could see Leo rising, so it's kind of fun to see Leo coming up in the sky. And what's going on with the solar system? So the main event, or no, it's not really affects your observing so much, but Jupiter is at opposition on November 3rd. On November 3rd, the transit time for Jupiter is 12:47 a.m. They'll have an altitude of 63 degrees, which is nice and high, and it'll have a size of 49.5 seconds, which is nice and large. And to give you a sense of where Jupiter is at the end of the month, so the transit time there will be 9:38, so it'll be a lot easier to see because you won't have to stay up as late. And the transit altitude is almost the same, and the size is almost the same. So we have a whole month where Jupiter is prominent and observable without much change. And then we have Saturn. So November 3rd, Saturn transits at 8:16 p.m. It has an altitude of 36 degrees and a size of 17.9 seconds. And then as you get to the end of the month, the transit time is at 5:32 p.m. early in the evening. Sunsets at 4:23, so you'll be able to spot Saturn pretty easily. It'll be dark out when Saturn is high in the sky. And again, the altitude is 37 degrees and the size is only slightly smaller at 17.1. So we have basically a whole month where Saturn and Jupiter are out and about without much change.
Karl, transit time is the same as culmination. In other words, it's passing the meridian at that time.
Yes, yes. Wasn't familiar with the word culmination.
Culmination is the same thing.
Same thing. Okay. Another event that's occurring this month, this stupid thing is in the way, is Uranus is at opposition this month as well, and that occurs on November 30th, and November 30th is a new moon. But I'm sure, I didn't run the numbers, but Uranus is probably not going to change position that much over the month of November. And Uranus is going to be located, if you wanted to try to star hop to find it, about halfway between the Pleiades and Jupiter. And it's going to be in the constellation Aries, and Aries is just below Andromeda. So if you can, I would suggest trying to look for Uranus. I did find Uranus a few years back. It's a really beautiful object. It's got like a nice blue hue about it. And like with all the planets, there's nothing like looking at it through the eyepiece, and it was really a beautiful sight. So I'm hoping to see it again this year.
What did you see it in when the time you spoke of what scope?
I used my 10-inch Dobsonian, and it kind of looks like a small blue nebula, a little fuzzy nebula.
So is that like 1,000 millimeter focal length, more or less?
That is 1,000, yeah, about 1,000, just under 1,000.
Which eyepiece do you recall? Like, how much magnification were you using?
Oh, that's going back too far, but you don't need, there's not a lot of detail there, so you don't need to zoom in that much.
Just to make it
A little bit bigger.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I used for like the Dobsonian. My highest power is like 6 millimeter or something like that. My 6.7, which is about 400 times, 300 times. If you get like 200 times, I'm sure you'll see a nice object.
Magnification around 300 to see the size of the full moon through the eyepiece.
So yeah, so I hope people get a chance to see Uranus this year. Yeah, so the transit time on Uranus is 11:39 p.m. and the transit altitude is 67 degrees, which is nice and high, and it's 3.7 arc seconds. So it'll certainly look something different than a star. Another solar system event this month is going to occur on November 9th, on the morning of November 9th. And we have Venus is going to be 1 degree, 18 seconds away from the moon. And the moon will be about 15% illuminated. It'll also be a good opportunity to see the Earth shine on the moon. So it'll be good for potential photography if people want to take the camera out, take a shot of the Earth shine of the moon and Venus nearby it. Venus will be about 58% illuminated. Frank was just saying that we just passed the greatest elongation point, which is when the object is at a half moon type of effect. And so it'll be 58% illuminated. And actually, if you're in Europe, you'd actually see an occultation of the moon and Venus. That's a little bit too far for us here. The main deep sky object this month is the Andromeda Galaxy. I think it's against the laws of astronomical observing if you don't try to look at the Andromeda Galaxy when you're out observing in the fall. And if you're in dark enough skies, it's a naked eye. You can kind of make it out naked eye. I've made it out naked eye from Orient Point. You can kind of see it with a little bit of an averted vision. You can see a little fuzzy thing in the sky. So Andromeda Galaxy consists of M31, M32, and M101, all three. Obviously, the big one is M31. I've always found it fascinating. M101 is the little dwarf galaxy that's above Andromeda here in the picture. And in a photographic image, it looks very close to the main Andromeda galaxy, but that's because obviously the camera picks up a lot more than what your eye could pick up. And I'm always surprised at how far it is visually in the telescope when you move from the core of the Andromeda galaxy to find M101. I'm always surprised because I'm always visualizing it as I see in a picture, but it's a little bit further away than I always expect. The Andromeda galaxy, the altitude at transit is 89 degrees. It's almost directly above us. It's almost at the same latitude and declination as we are in latitude, and so it's almost straight ahead. If you're using a Dobsonian, or even if you're using an SCT, sometimes it's hard to observe things straight up, especially with the Dobsonian. But so on November 3rd, for instance, astro twilight ends at 7:20. The altitude of Andromeda at 7:20 is 52 degrees. So my suggestion is to try to observe Andromeda earlier in the evening, because once it gets a little bit later in the evening, it's going to be very high in the sky and may not be as comfortable to observe as it will be earlier on in the evening. Some other highlight galaxies for the month, M33. I've got a map coming, which will show you where all the objects are on the map. And M33 is obviously another one of the larger galaxies that we can observe. I think it's the second largest galaxy that we can observe from Earth, visually that is. And it's in the Triangulum constellation, and it's off the nose of the thin end of the triangle point. And it's a fun object for binoculars. If you're in dark skies and you look up to the binoculars, you'll see like a little bit of a fuzzy white patch where M33 is. Another fun object that I've observed one time, it's going back a while, but M74, and it's a kind of a nice bright galaxy, and that is, where's my, keep losing my cursor? Should have brought my own. Oops. Ugh. Sorry. This thing's getting in the way. And M74 is in Pisces, on the east end of Pisces, and it's below M33. Here we have some more galaxies that are kind of highlight galaxies. This stupid thing. So this is NGC 891. This is the image here is from Steve Bellavia, and this object is in Andromeda, and it's on the east end of Andromeda, off Almach, which is the end of the star at basically the end of the tail of Andromeda. And it's a nice edge-on galaxy. On the lower left, or actually we'll go to the lower right, we have NGC 7331, which is a beautiful galaxy. I've even observed this from Long Beach. It's bright enough that even in dark, light polluted skies, you can catch it. Although anything you look at in light polluted skies is going to be dim, but I did spot it one time. And it's a fun object to find, and it's in Pegasus. And this object here in the lower left is NGC 7814, and it's just inside the great square on the southeast corner off the star Algenib, which is Gamma Pegasus. And it's known as the Little Sombrero. And you kind of need, I think, darker skies to find this, but it's kind of a fun object to hunt down. It's kind of easy. If you look at the great square of Pegasus on the bottom left, just inside is the Little Sombrero. And let's look at on the map where these objects are located. So the first one is NGC 7331 is up here, just above the right corner of the great square. And then the little sombrero is on the other diagonal corner of the great square. This, of course, is M31, Andromeda Galaxy. Then we have M33 below it, and then M74 below that. Oh, and then we have the Edge-on Galaxy, NGC 891, right here at the tail of Andromeda.
Can you wiggle your cursor by that?
Yeah, do you see that?
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, right there. And we have some fun star clusters. This month we have a double cluster, which is always a great binocular object. And like M31, the double cluster is in dark skies, a naked eye object. You'll see kind of a fuzzy patch in the sky where the double cluster is, and it's fun to kind of spot that and look at it with binoculars. This is M103, which is a nice, beautiful star cluster in Cassiopeia. It's on the eastern end of the W. And this is another fun cluster. All clusters are fun. This is the ET cluster in Cassiopeia. Some people call it the ET cluster. Some people see like a fighter jet. Other people see an owl. But it's kind of what, you know, a lot of different ways to describe this cluster. And all of these objects are up here. If you can see the yellow box up here by the eastern end of Cassiopeia. That's where the double cluster is, the ET cluster and M103. We also have some neat nebula. The blue snowball. Yeah, this is a fun object to look at.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites too. Whenever I'm out in the fall, I haven't been out observing yet, but I always make a point to try to find this. It's a really fun object. It really looks neat in the eyepiece.
One of the few objects that has some color.
Yes, yes. And I guess, have you observed it? What did you have? You observed it with?
28 inch, with Cherry Springs.
Oh,
I've
nice.
seen it a million times, but that's a given.
Yeah, so that's a fun object to hunt down.
Good with an O3 filter also.
I haven't tried it with an 03. I don't know if that takes away the color a little bit, maybe.
Dims it, but the contrast comes out.
The contrast comes out, but yeah, the color will, yeah.
I'll have to try an 03 filter next time.
Please report back to us.
I will. Well, hopefully I get a chance to observe. The Saturn Nebula is a fun nebula. It's kind of on the other end of the area of observing as far as what's in the sky. It starts earlier in the evening in November, but this is a fun object too, and you can kind of see like that it's kind of an oval shape with little things coming out the side. So that's a fun object to hunt down as well. It's a bright planetary nebula.
That's a good one.
We also have a little dumbbell out and about, and that's in Perseus. And then, of course, the Helix Nebula. This is a beautiful image by Steve Bellavia. And the Helix Nebula is, well, both the Helix Nebula and the Saturn Nebula are low in the sky. The Saturn Nebula is at a negative 11 degrees declination, and the Helix is at negative 20. So you're going to want to get these objects, when they're around the meridian, and for November, that's early in the evening. So you don't want to, you want to kind of grab these early when they're up, because they're not going to stay up that long at that lower an altitude.
Gotta tell people that look at their telescope, doesn't look like what Steve photographs.
No, but I'll tell you, like a lot of the planetary nebula are small, like the blue snowball and the Saturn Nebula. But the Helix Nebula is really a big object. You need a wide field. You need your widest field eyepiece to really appreciate it and grab it.
We
And-
had some really good views of that with the 32 inch from the night vision in an HA film. You can actually see, the faint nebulosity to the upper left is fully eyebrow. And it literally looks like Steve's picture minus the color.
Wow.
Yeah, I've observed it with without a filter, with a regular nebula filter, and with an O3 filter, which is even more narrow. And it looks great in all of them, but the O3 filter really kind of gives you a lot of contrast. It's a really great object for that. And you can even spot it with binoculars. We spotted it with binoculars before. You see a little fuzzy patch, but it's really great with a nebula filter or an O3 filter.
Yeah, I think it's one of the closest planetary.
And let's see where these are located. So here's the Saturn Nebula, and actually you can see that Saturn, the planet, is not that far this month from the Saturn Nebula. But you can see it's kind of low on the horizon, and this is where the Helix Nebula is. And one of the interesting things is lots of different ways to star hop two objects, and I think everybody's got their own. Like, I know when I go out observing with Steve Bellavia, he has one way to jump to star hop to, and I've got another way. We all get there. It's kind of interesting how it is. You can find different ways to get to the same object.
But only one of those ways is the correct way.
Yes, only my way is the correct way. And then up here is the blue snowball right above the Great Square. And then back on the end, not far from NGC 891, the edge on Galaxy is the Dumbbell Nebula. And we also have a couple of bright globular clusters, all at the front edge. Well, all basically in the same area. M15 is called the Great Pegasus Cluster. It's on the very west end of Pegasus. And then not far below that, in Aquarius, is M2. And these are bright enough that you could see these in binoculars as well. These are fun to hunt down. And you could see that these are here and here, which is on the early part of the evening. So you want to grab these early. And then this is showing where all the objects we just spoke about are located. So there's a lot of fun things, a lot of diverse things to see in the sky with your telescope this month. And that's it.